just a minute or two.
Or maybe a minute. Okay, we're good to go.
All right, everyone, let's call this meeting to order. We are at the January 13th meeting of the Salem Parks and Recreation Advisory Board. Happy New Year. I am the chair, Dylan McDowell, for about 30 more minutes or less until we have our elections today. But we're going to start with our roll call. So I'm going to go through and for our new members, we'll go through our roll call and then I'll ask you to each just share a little bit more about yourself. But, Mickey Varney.
Present.
Alan Alexander. I think he is still not here yet. Dave Friedenmaker.
Here.
Rick Hartwig.
Here.
Alan Holland.
Here.
Joan Lloyd.
Here.
Keith Norris.
I'm here.
And Woody Dukes.
Here.
And just an update for folks. I know we had a goodbye for Woody last month, but as folks know, Woody is our resident horticulture expert. And so Woody is staying on until we get that role filled. We did have a candidate that did not work out. And so we are still looking for that position, that expertise. But the benefit of that is that we're lucky to have Woody on for a little bit longer. So thank you so much, Woody, for sticking around. It's always great to have you here. And we always are thankful for your expertise. With that, Joan and Alan, we're so happy to have you be part of the Parks and Recreation Board. I'd love for you just to share a little bit about yourselves, how you got interested in this and you know, your familiarity and what you're looking forward to. So Joan, I'll start with you.
Well, my husband worked with Tony several years ago to make improvements at McRae and Englewood Parks. And I've been on the NEN board for 15 years now, and so was involved in that, did painting, watering trees, planting trees. And now I'm more interested in playgrounds because my young grandchildren have moved here from North Carolina. And, oh, excuse me. And so I take them to playgrounds. And anyway, it's exciting. Oh, and love trees too. They were definitely the air conditioning from my former house, which I sold to my son. So that's it.
Thank you. And what part of Salem do you live in?
Right now, Northeast.
Northeast. Okay,
Yeah.
great. And Alan, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
I am a retired school teacher. I taught for 30 years. I graduated from OCE with a degree in general science, and I taught at the University of Oregon a high school equivalency program for 8 years for migrant farm workers. They're agricultural folks, and I grew up in Central Oregon, so I'm familiar with the outdoors a lot. I enjoy hiking, kayaking, golf, biking, and birding. And I'm particularly interested in Minto Brown Island Park because I bike through it often on my way to golf course, as well as the slough where I kayak up and down and across the river. So I've always been interested in the outdoors and what I can do to get into there and how it's being treated or preserved. So it's largely a professional and personal interest that's expanded to be part of my life. And I thought it'd be a good idea to get involved so I could be a contributor to that kind of thing. I'm acquainted with Rick and Mickey. We've been on various events at times in the past. So when I heard that this board was open, I thought it'd be a good idea to get involved in.
That's great, Alan.
I live in West Salem.
Oh, wonderful. Wonderful. I am also in West Salem, as are a couple of us. So that's great. Alan Alexander, great to see you. Alan, you may have just caught that we have two Allens on the board now. We were just hearing from our newest members, Alan Holland and Joan Lloyd. Oh, Alan, we can't hear you right now. I see, it looks like you're not muted, but I'm not sure why your audio is not coming through. Alan, can you try talking now? That is not working for us.
Show him as unmuted.
I see that as well. Occasionally, Alan leaving and coming back works in some cases if you want to try that. Otherwise, I don't know if you have headphones plugged in by accident, maybe, and it's not picking up through those.
Or maybe try headphones and it
That's
might
true.
work.
I have headphones. Alan, while you work on that, why don't we move forward with the minutes adoption and give you a minute to try and do the sound check there, but feel free to speak up, and if you interject, we'll know that it's working. Well, once again, Joan and Alan Holland, thank you so much for being here and really excited. We've been talking, we haven't all met in person. We did do a bird tour, I guess, but we haven't had a chance to have an in-person retreat due to COVID for the last 2 years. And so we're hoping this year to have an in-person retreat, conditions permitting. We were talking about that last time. And so hopefully we'll all get to meet you in person relatively soon. All right, well, let's go into our minutes. So hopefully folks had a chance to review the minutes from last meeting. For Joan and Alan, hopefully it gave you a sense of what we've talked about. Are there any revisions or adjustments to the minutes? Hearing none, is there? Yes, Keith.
I was just going to move to accept the minutes from our December 9th, 2021 meeting.
Seconded.
Seconded, all right. Any objections or any further comment? All right, let's do a voice vote. All in favor of adopting the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Okay, the minutes are adopted. Moving into our public comment, we did have, Alan, you can hear us, right? Okay, yeah. Thank you, Mickey, for checking on that. Moving on to our public comment, we did receive one piece of public comment today from Michael Slater. It was regarding the Pringle Creek connection, and hopefully folks had a chance to review that. I think this is something we'll talk about a little bit when we get to that portion of our presentation today. But I also did want to take this time, he mentioned the bond measure. And Tony, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe we have a presentation on the bond measures and the bond process next month from Courtney, is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
And I will also note that this last week on Monday, I presented to City Council about the annual report, and Councilor Tom Anderson did bring up A, that he was really impressed with all the work that we're doing here on SPRAD, but then B, that he'd really like us to consider what our wish list would be in terms of a bond measure. So I think it's good that they're so receptive, and I think that thinking about what Michael Slater shared with us, it's a good opportunity for us to keep thinking about our priorities and how we can make sure our parks are connected and we take advantage of all these opportunities. Are there any other thoughts or comments on the public comment from Michael? Okay, I'm not hearing any there, but I do think we can come back to this when we talk about the connectivity later on. Carol, were you hoping to give public comment tonight?
No, I'm just here to listen.
Okay, wonderful. And Christine, did you want to give any public comment? I know we have the update later, but I just want to give you the chance.
Thanks, but no, I'm not. I'm just here to report.
Okay. All right, well, we will now move into our board items, which the first of which is our election. So to bring folks up to speed, or just as a reminder from the minutes, last time we solicited interest in the position. Mickey had shared that she's interested in running for chair. Alan had shared that he was interested in running for vice chair. And I had said that I'd be interested in vice chair, but I don't want to take that away if someone else is interested. So we currently want to go through and figure out if people are still interested. And if we have multiple people for one position, we have a couple approaches we can take in the virtual world. But if we only have one person, then we can do a simple roll call vote. So I'll start with the chair position. Mickey, are you still interested in serving as the chair role?
I am still interested in serving.
Okay. And is there anyone else that would like to put their name forward to serve as chair? Okay. Oh, I see Alan's coming back in. I'll just give him a moment here. Alan, can you hear us now?
Says he's connecting to audio.
Yeah.
Connected.
Alan, can you hear us?
I certainly can.
Wonderful, and we can hear you. It worked. All right. Alan, we were just talking about for the elections. I was soliciting interest for the chair role and reconfirming that Mickey was interested in that. And I had shared that last time you had said you might be interested in the vice chair role. And I had said that I was interested potentially, but that I was more interested in sharing the opportunity. So if it's something you want to work, if you are interested in that, then that is the way we will go. So,
Well, to be honest with you, I gave it some thought, and I'm telling the truth. You've impressed me with what a great job you did as a chair. I wouldn't do anything to stand in the way if you would like to assume the vice chair role. In fact, I'll nominate you. That's how positive I feel about it.
well, thank you, Alan. I really do appreciate that. I appreciate that. Well, let's start with the chair. I'm not hearing anything more in terms of nominations for the chair. Is that correct? No one else is putting their name forward? Okay. I know the chair does not usually nominate, but in this case, I would like to make a motion to nominate Mickey Varney as the next chair of the Salem Parks and Recreation Advisory Board. And as part of that, just note what a wonderful job she has done as vice chair for the last 2 years, making sure that I'm successful in the chair role, being so engaged in the meetings, and then also just being so incredibly involved in the community in all her different roles. So I'm very excited to see where you take the chair role and just all the different connections and resources you're bringing into this. Do we have a second for that nomination?
I'll second that one.
All right. We're going to do a roll call vote just to make it official. So Mickey Varney.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Alan Alexander.
Aye.
Dave Friedenmaker.
Aye.
Rick Hartwig.
Aye.
Alan Holland. I saw your mouth move, but it did not. I just want to make sure your audio.
Aye.
Okay.
Sorry, I was muted momentarily.
I didn't want to go from one Alan audio issue to another. So
I would be willing to go by Al, which is common for me, just so that it simplifies things a little bit.
Wonderful. Thank you, Al. Joan Lloyd.
Aye.
Keith Norris.
Aye.
Woody Dukes.
Aye.
And I vote aye as well. So Mickey, you are now the chair of the Salem Parks and Recreation Advisory Board. And I am happy to pass the virtual gavel over to you if you would like to conduct the election for the vice chair role.
Boy, oh boy. Well, thank you all. We're such a wonderful team. Any of you and all of you are very, very well qualified to fill any of these roles. I've just been so impressed with everyone. So I guess since I have the gavel here, are there any other nominations for the vice chair position? Okay, because currently our nomination, currently Dylan is the individual that has been nominated for the position. It's been a while since I've conducted an election. Help me out here, Dylan. No, just kidding.
Mickey, I'll move that Dylan be elected as vice chair.
Okay, thank you very much. Is there a second?
I would second that.
Thank you, Alan. Okay, so I guess we do a roll call vote then. I'll just go down the list here. Alan Alexander.
Aye.
Dave Friedenmacher.
Aye.
Rick Hartwig.
Aye.
Al Holland.
Aye.
Joan Lloyd.
Aye.
Keith Norris.
Aye.
How do I do this with the last two? I guess Dylan.
I vote aye. And don't forget Woody. He's not on our attendee list this time because of the turnover there, but he is still a voting member for now.
Okay, I wasn't sure if he was a voting member. Okay, Woody, I'm sorry.
Aye.
And I vote aye as well. So congratulations, Dylan.
Well, thank you all so much. I really do appreciate that. And Mickey, I look forward to continue working with you.
Me too. So next on our agenda is the Orchard Heights and Pringle Creek Trail grant proposals. I'm really looking forward to these. They looked wonderful. Lots of great information. So if we can just go ahead with the presentation. And I believe, Anthony, are you giving the presentation this evening?
Yes, I am. Yeah, thank you very much. Appreciate
Okay.
it. So yeah,
Welcome.
I'm standing in for Julie Warnke, who couldn't be here. But I just wanted to, and I know you, Sprab is very familiar with one of these projects that you've already given your support for back in January of 2021. But I'll go over both of them and just a background of why we're here to talk about this. The first project, well, I'll start by saying that late last year, end of 2021, we applied for funds with SCATS, which is our Metropolitan Planning Organization, to on a number of projects. Well, it's we pre-applied, and we're approaching the time for us to submit the full applications for projects. So we're going around sort of gauging support and enthusiasm for the projects for which we've submitted pre-applications. And two of them touch parks. And these are the ones I'm going to talk about now. And we wanted to get your feedback and an idea of how much support and enthusiasm there is for these two projects. The first is the Orchard Heights Park access. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen so I can sort of walk you through what we're talking about. Just give me one moment. Okay, everyone see that okay? Okay, great. So what this project is here, I'll give you a street view. So this is Orchard Heights near Orchard Heights Park there. And this is looking up the hill on Orchard Heights. As you can see, the sidewalk doesn't exist on the northern side of the road. And the park, can't see it here, is right through all this foliage here. And if you go, if I were to take you all the way up to the top of the street, there's a new apartment complex that was recently constructed. It's right, this one right here. Here's the park. This connection doesn't exist right here, right? So what we're calling for is to extend the sidewalk 325 feet down to the intersection with Chapman Hill. And there's an existing path there that sort of winds through and connects to the park. And that would create, extending that sidewalk would create that connection to the park. This project would also call for the construction of a new bridge. There's a bridge there over a creek that's in some disrepair. You know, I've got a picture of it here. Everybody see that there? Right, so we kind of need a new bridge there, especially one that can support park vehicles to drive over. So what we're suggesting in this project that we've pre-applied for is to extend that sidewalk and connect to the existing paths and reconstruct the bridge at that location. And what it looks like more or less is this, right? So here's the sidewalk extension, the existing path, and here's the bridge, right? So that's the first part of it. In the future, we would look at creating a pedestrian crossing here as part of a different project. But for now, we're applying or pre-applying for this portion of it. And let me go back to the map. So obviously it creates that barrier for these folks here, and down the road, if we can construct that crossing here, we're connecting these neighborhoods here to the park more easily as well. The overall cost of the project is approximately $1.2 million. We applied for $1 million in funds from SCATS, or we're planning to, and before we went further and submitted a final application, we wanted to go ahead and talk to you all, get your, support and endorsement, or lack of support and endorsement, if this isn't like a popular project. So if you have any feedback on it, there's a lot of history with this one. It's been brought up a lot in the past. This one isn't coming out of the blue. We've applied in the past for funds on this for a longer sidewalk construction. So this is one that's been in the hopper for years and years and years. So just, I'll open it up now if you all have any feedback.
So does anyone have any questions?
Yes.
Okay, Alan?
Go ahead.
My house where I live is just off of the screen that you shared a little bit to the upper right, or upper left, I mean. This is my common commuting route to return home. I'm familiar with the park a lot, and this is a great idea. This is needed improvement. The bridge is important to put in, pedestrian access, the sidewalk, all that's good. The question I have is that sidewalk, it seems like I'm curious to know where it's going to end. There is already a pedestrian access. If you could show the screen, I don't know if.
Sure, I'll share it again. Give me one sec.
There's already a pedestrian access through a cyclone fence from Orchard Heights that is just about where the O in Orchard Heights is in the street, as I saw that map.
Right here?
No, much farther south, about to the middle of the activity field. There's an access to that field from Orchard Heights that goes through a fence. It might be where your arrow is. Might be.
Okay. Okay.
What I'm asking, I think, is I think it's important to provide as much pedestrian access to the park as we can conveniently do and afford. The proposed pedestrian crossing that you mentioned is a future project, I think, is a great idea and will expand access to all those people there on the left of the screen. Similarly, this one that I was just referring to does not have a sidewalk to it as well on that side of Orchard Heights. And it would be even nicer, I think, if that could be improved to a point where pedestrians could access it more safely.
I think I think that's in the past we've applied for funds for a larger sidewalk project all the way down.
Okay.
And yeah, I think for this one we
just got to scale it back.
Yeah, we're going to scale it back for this particular grant that's being offered, but we're aware.
Okay.
Orchard Heights is a major road. We want to have full sidewalk on that.
Okay.
And, yeah, that will be part of the future plans.
Okay. You're covering it.
Okay.
There are potential other improvements there or maintenance things on the walking loop that's on the north side or the north side of this area is a kind of a nature trail that has a series of exercise stations along the way. It does about a quarter-mile loop in the forested region of that area.
In this area here?
Yeah, it's been developed as I don't know, you call it a park course or whatnot, but there's balance beams and chin-up bars and things of that sort that you can take on as you walk this loop. And that's a wonderful resource there in the park. I hope it will be continued, maintained, improved if possible. But yeah, that dotted line loop has a number of exercise stations that are popular and well used.
Well, thank you, Alan.
Thank you.
Dylan, did you have a question?
Yeah, well, first I want to echo Alan. I live over in West Salem. I use Orchard a fair amount, and I think anytime we can improve the sidewalk access there is huge. I guess two questions. One is I think you said it was a $1.2 million estimate, but then the project cost estimate in this document that I'm seeing is $1 million. So I was just trying to understand where the extra.
The city would be providing a $200,000 match.
Gotcha. Okay. And then the other question I was going to ask is, it says current traffic volume for quick fax is 8,220, and then it says 2006 Salem. So does that mean that this traffic data is what is that, 16 years
Yeah.
old at this point?
That's what that would mean, yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
wondering, is there, from the purposes of your ability to get the grant, it seems like higher traffic volume increases the need based on pedestrian risk, and knowing that there's that new apartment complex there means that you have significantly higher traffic volume in the last 16 years. And is that something they consider, that you could try and bump up those numbers to increase your chances?
For this particular kind of project, for the crossing, we would probably benefit more from the volume numbers. But the way we really sold, or we're trying to sell it to SCATs, is that this the new apartment complex really is increasing pedestrian foot traffic, and then we really want to serve that area.
That makes sense. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Dylan. Does anybody else have a question? Oh, Alan Alexander.
I am also, even though I don't live in West Salem, do have some familiarity with this park, and I think this is an excellent project. And even at 1.2 million, I think it's a doable project. And I'm more interested in having ADA access on that side of the highway down to the park. And this project would fulfill that requirement. Yes. And make it much safer for park users. And I just think it's an excellent project.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Keith?
Yeah, thanks, Anthony, for the presentation. I agree.
Sure.
I like the general goal here of increasing access. I think two general questions. One, that apartment complex, if you look up at the top part of that screen there with the dog park, I think, do those apartments access through that dog park there? Is that a sanctioned access with those trails?
I believe so.
Coming through, I wonder if they're already having some access, and I'm looking up to the grove of trees. So that's where I was looking. And from what I can remember, when I've walked through there before, that there seem to be, and maybe it's more social trails, but I wonder if that's an item to address with it as well, kind of access through that end of
That's a good question.
Can I speak on that?
Secondly, I was just going to ask about SCATs and who is SCATs? Where is that money coming from? What's kind of their objective?
So, SCATs is our metropolitan planning organization. Every city in America, or every metropolitan planning organization, or metropolitan area in America, is required to have one by federal law. It's basically the organ through which federal money is sort of filtered down to metropolitan areas.
And is that U.S. is that Department of Transportation federal money?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah. And then them and FHWA, Federal Highway.
Federal Highway. Okay. Thank you.
Sure. And I think I can't see because I'm sharing screen, but I think I heard someone say that they could speak to the first question about the access.
Yes.
Go ahead, Alan.
It was asked about the access of the Cerro apartments to the park through a dog exercise area or path. I've been through this area on foot numerous times, and there is a cyclone fence between the apartments and the park. I don't believe you can just walk right there unless you walk out of. Yes, that's right. On that boundary, I believe that fence runs pretty much the length of the park and apartments now.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Are there any other comments or questions? I'm kind of scrolling through people here. I haven't quite figured out how to be able to see everybody all at once.
Oh, let me stop sharing. Maybe that'll help.
Oh, no, that's okay. That's okay. Now I can see everyone. Well, I had a couple of comments and questions. I too live in West Salem and have spent quite a bit of time at Orchard Heights. Yes, there is a chain link fence up there where, as Alan referenced, I did ask about an opening there. Oh, when those apartments, when they were going in, and apparently the builder or the developer or the owner was not interested in putting a gate in at that time, but it might be nice to pursue that again because I thought it would be a great access. And then as for the project as a whole, I'm really happy to see this. It is, we've talked about this sidewalk since before that development went in and afterwards, and we definitely need safe sidewalks on Orchard Heights. I'm kind of curious as to why that particular section was chosen. I kind of understand because of the new housing development, but the thing is, they're not sidewalks. As Alan Holland had also said, there's not a sidewalk between that area and the entrance, the vehicle entrance to the park. And that's true on both sides. You know, that's definitely an area that we need to keep in mind.
And we're definitely aware of that. Yeah.
Yeah. And there is a lot of traffic on that road. One of my other concerns is the crosswalks. We need crosswalks sooner rather than later, because for instance, off of Parkway, that is a very dangerous intersection for people to be crossing to get into Orchard Heights. And there really isn't another way to get there. If there's some way to kind of push the idea of crosswalks up the ladder a little bit faster, I mean, that's really crucial. I presented this plan to the executive committee of the West Salem Neighborhood Association, and they are very supportive of it, but their comments also included the need for additional crosswalks, especially one at Parkway. The one at Chapman Hills would probably work, but you know, we need access to multiple sides of the park.
I'll add also that regarding crosswalks, I happen to be the project manager for the Safer Crossings program, and which is a tool for the public to request pedestrian crosswalks, improve pedestrian crosswalks, and we have received requests at that location. So we've scored it according to our metrics. We're aware of the need for it there. We have about 140 locations that we've received requests for. So we're sort of cycling through in our grant phasing, like our prioritizing according to a variety of metrics. So certainly proximity to a park is one, proximity to schools, the classification of the road, that sort of thing. And we have received requests at the park entrance there. So we're aware of that, and that is on our radar for future grant applications.
Well, thank you, Anthony. Is there a way to see where in the list it is?
I would recommend to everybody, if you go to our website and just Google Salem Safer Crossings Program, it'll take you to the site and you can access the tool. It's a GIS based tool, kind of like Google Maps, and it'll open up a map. You can view all of the requests, and there's a little sort of information icon you can click on, and that'll sort of steer you to see all the requests and sorted by score.
Okay.
And we worked with numerous sort of public stakeholders, like the school district, transit, neighborhood associations, to come up with metrics to score each, to come up with how we would score the locations, right? So, for example, a location that has residences on one side of the street and stores or shops or a park or a school on the other side of the street is going to score higher than, say, one in the middle of just like a single family residential development, right? That's not going to generate a huge number of crossings, right? So it's functioning really well. We've had it in place for about 2 or 3 years, and we've received almost 300 requests at about 140, 150 independent locations. So it's really helping guide us in where we're spending our scant resources, So but that location is on our list.
Okay, thank you. And thank you, Tony, for putting the link there in the chat. I appreciate it a lot.
Thanks, Tony.
Are there any other questions on this particular grant application for Orchard Heights? Okay, I'm assuming that the way this presentation was brought forward, it's a combined motion that we're voting on. So I guess
Okay.
if there aren't any further questions, let's go ahead and
Yeah, I'll
the
go ahead
rest
and
of your
talk about Pringle
presentation.
Creek. So yeah,
Okay.
and we pre-applied for, it was like 12 or 15 separate projects. These are the two that touch parks. The other one is one that I know you all are familiar with, Pringle Creek Path connection. This one was brought before SPRAB. My understanding is back in January 21st or January 2021. We applied for funds for it through the Oregon Community Paths Program. We didn't get that grant. That's a really competitive grant, and this is a little bit more of an expensive project. It's 5.6 million is our estimate, and the way things are now, with costs of things, that 5.6 million might already be old. So we applied for included this in our pre-application, and we're still sort of working out if this is the right pot of funds for it. If this one might not be a little bit steep in cost for this particular grant. But we did want to talk to you all and confirm that that SPRAB is still in support and of this project, and if this is one that SPRAB would like to see the city pursue with each and every grant opportunity that comes up. Let me share. I don't know if you have like new members since it was presented to you last year. I'm going to go ahead and share a slide from a PowerPoint that kind of gives an overview of what the project is.
That would be great because we do have new members.
Yeah, that's what I figured. Do you all see that there? So this is commercial, right? City Hall is right here. It's Pringle Creek, Riverfront Park's over here. And this is basically just creating a connection here, right? And here's what it looks like. Here's what it used to look like. Right there, this is what it looks like now. And the path would come through along here and create that connection to Riverfront Park. And I also have, I think I have a good, here, just an overall view. Here's our, existing, paths and walking paths and routes. And the red is the connection that we're talking about. And I think it's a fantastic project. This is one I'm pretty excited about. To create this kind of connection and really complete the network is something that is certainly attractive. So if this is one that I imagine SPRAB is, if you all supported it back in January, I'm sure you support it now. But we wanted to run it by you all again and let you know that we're considering this one for our final applications for these funds.
Okay, thank you very much, Anthony.
Sure.
Dylan, questions?
Yeah, thank you, Anthony. I couldn't agree more. Personally, I feel like this is one of the more important projects for us in a lot of ways. I think as we look at the Our Salem plan, also looking at the climate action plan and trying to emphasize bike connectivity, thinking about how people are getting around.
Yes.
I know being in West Salem, the benefit that I can just ride down now across the railroad bridge, go to Minto, everything is wonderful. And I also bike, Alan. So yes, I think we might be down the same trails at the same time. But I think this is just so needed. And I want to bring up Michael Slater's public comment again, that if
Yeah.
If we don't get the money here, I think there should be something we push for in the bond measure, but I wanted to think about those timelines a little bit. And this, I don't know if this is a question for you or for some of the park staff, but do you know when we would find out one way or another to make sure that we could put this in the other, the bond budget as well if needed?
That I couldn't speak to. That one is about 1,000,000 miles above my pay grade. So sadly,
That's okay.
yeah.
I
Sorry.
feel like at this point, I would almost rather put it in both if possible, just because I think that we really want to get the money. And the follow-up question I had, also Michael Slater raised this in his comment, is just how we can keep extending this to the south and southeast, basically, depending on which way you're looking at it. I know Michael Slater mentions, I think, trail breaks at the Salmon Run building. And I don't know if, is that something that we, especially with the bond measure, we could start looping this into just more connectivity in general once we're going to invest in this one piece?
Potentially, I'd have to go and dig into our TSP, our transportation system plan, and see what the plans are for it for in the area of town that you're talking about. We do have starting in about that area over by the hospital, going down through Bush Park, an identified bikeway that goes through in that we're currently signing the southern end of. It begins at the Capitol, going south along Winter, and all the way through to Bush Park and down through some very low volume side roads down to Clark Creek Park. And a portion of that is already signed. We're in the process of signing the rest and down at the southern end. So that it would create a connection to that.
Could you clarify what you mean when you say signed?
So you've probably seen around town. It's like the green signs with pedestrian and bike level, sort of bike scale signs with destinations.
It's not like you signed something. Okay.
Oh yeah. My apologies.
Sorry, I just wanted to make sure that I was.
Sometimes we dive into the lingo and we.
No, that's all right.
Assume that everyone else.
Yeah. Is that something that you'd be able to? I'm very interested in that. Is that something you could send a follow up to Tony to distribute to the board?
I can. Yes.
In the next few days, that'd be great. Thank you.
Definitely.
Thank you.
Sure.
Well, thank you for all the great questions. Boy, oh boy. Keith, your hand was up next.
Yeah, thanks, Chair Varney. I guess more generically, you're right. I liked this project when it came to us a year ago. I like it now. It looks like the price did go up a little bit, so at least there's some accounting for inflation over the last year since we last saw it. So that's good. I think my question is more on kind of the process. Is the city ranking their 14 projects? You mentioned these are the 2 out of the 14 that deal with parks. So, is there a ranking system?
That's a good question. We don't rank them. Okay. SCATS ranks them, and they ranked Orchard Heights. They ranked these both in their lower tier, and it's not just of ranking them out of our applications. It's ranking them out of the whole regions.
The whole region.
And I'm not sure how many they received, but it was a lot. Like the total number was $154 million of requests that they received. So,
and do you know how much they can give out?
It's a lot less than that. It's I want to say it was about 20.
Okay. It just seemed like 14 felt like a very shotgun approach.
It's we have in Public Works, we just have like a kind of a database of projects that are always waiting. Some of them have been in the hopper for years, for a couple decades. Others have just kind of come across, right? And we're always kind of looking for opportunities to sort of line up opportunity with need. And these projects that we applied for or pre-applied for, I keep saying applied, pre-applied for here sort of do meet that and sort of line up with the need.
Okay. My other question is more assuming if and when we vote to kind of endorse these projects, is what's the city looking for? What's the city need in terms of what would be helpful for that. I think a year ago, I believe we wrote a letter specific to this project too. I think that was a application to ODOT specifically, but
Yeah.
should we just revise that letter a little bit and add one?
That would probably, yeah, that would probably be that would probably be it, right? It would be a supplicant to our application.
Right.
But first, we wanted to just confirm with you all that Sprout is still behind the project and just apprise you of what we're doing.
Okay, thanks so much.
think
And
we got a
thank you
couple
for bringing
more.
up the letter, the idea of the letter, Keith. I appreciate it because I was going to ask that as well. Rick, did you have a question?
No, I more of just a comment. I live in South Salem, but I taught for 30 years in West Salem. And I went through that area every day. And it probably for 20 years before I even noticed that there was that wonderful, gorgeous area there down by the creek, the waterfalls, the fountains, the ducks that were there. And I go, this is probably the biggest gem that nobody knows about in Salem. And then with the demise of Boise Cascade, I thought, wow, what an opportunity. And this is long overdue. I think it's going to be a wonderful addition, and it's going to open up that whole area to a larger group of people in Salem. And, it's great to have a wonderful area like that, but if nobody knows about it, what's the use of it? So I'm wholeheartedly in favor of that project.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rick. Dave, did you have a comment or a question?
Oh, I had a question. I was wondering whether the plan is that when this application goes in, that this would become part of the TIP, the short term, the 4-year plan, or
Yes.
Does it go into the illustrative 20-year plan?
No, this would be for the TIP. So that's the 2023, 2027.
Okay. Do you know what?
I'm sorry, 2024, 2027. Excuse me.
You know the amount that they're planning for that TIP?
That was asked before for the whole thing. I know this time around I think there was like 20. It was 20 something, but I don't remember I don't know the exact amount.
Yeah, it looked like it was
for this round.
175 million for the current one.
Oh, for the whole thing. Yeah. But for this round of applications, I know it was like 20 and change.
Okay, I just wondered.
Yeah, sorry.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Alexander?
Oh, I think he's muted.
You're on mute. Hold on, Ellen. Okay, there you go.
For some years, I worked with SCATs because they reviewed some of my projects. And I don't want people to get the wrong idea. SCATs is a regional committee, and I think it's still made up of Polk, Marion, and Yamhill County.
Yes.
All those entities, those cities and towns, have a representative on the SCATs committee. So, and Salem, in my opinion, is pretty underrepresented if you look at the population saturation, but I can't change that and nobody else can. But we can keep our fingers crossed, but it's going to be a heavy lift to get, particularly this last project, because of the dollar cost. While it's a good project, the bigger the price tag, the more scrutiny it looks at. So we can, and I can say there may be other options. If we're not successful on this one, we don't want to give up hope and keep trying, because both of them are good projects.
Yeah, and that's completely accurate. And for a project like this, we want to kind of keep this one on the front burner. So if we weren't able to get the grant last year, and if we're not able to get this one, that doesn't mean that it's going away. We're going to keep looking for opportunities for it.
Okay, thank you. Alan Holland.
I just wanted to, you've helped me understand that this is probably going to be a lower priority than I think we all would like to see it. With something under 20% of the demands requested being available to be funded, and this being on the lower priority of the list, it doesn't make me very optimistic, sadly. But I guess all I can say is, what else can we do to increase its chances, and what can we do if we to find other sources? These are both projects that I'd like to see happen. Is there alternative funding if this falls through?
Yeah, there's the bond measure that was brought up. I would suggest continue to make it known to council, right? And don't be shy also in contacting SCATs, and let them know that that there are people out there that want these projects. The more noise that's made for it, it's a squeaky wheel thing, right? And it takes time, and that can be frustrating. It's certainly frustrating for us. Especially, I really like this particular project a lot. As I do a lot of bike ped stuff, and creating that connection is just really just a fantastic opportunity. Especially like was said before, like through like really one of the prettiest parts of the city. So I love this project. I would really, really hope that somehow we can make this one happen this time around, if not sometime in the near future. But so much of this is just like repeated effort.
Yeah, it's a wonderful project. It reminds me of the kind of thing that Eugene did years ago in developing their bike paths along their river.
Yeah.
And I think we should be continuing to do that. And eventually I'd like to ride to Kaiser on the river. Along the river.
That's a beautiful goal.
Kaiser Rapids Park to Minto Brown Island should be on both sides of at least on one side of the river, and maybe a bridge someplace too. I mean, I'd love to see all that kind of stuff happen, but we'll see.
A little at a time.
Yeah.
Yep. Step by step. Yeah, that would be wonderful.
Yeah, it's a lot harder to develop, to redevelop stuff than it is to just develop like an open field, and that's what we're dealing with every day.
Yeah.
So are there any other questions or comments? Okay, then I need a motion from someone to, let's see, we've been requested to endorse the 2 grant applications for both Orchard Heights and for the Pringle Creek Path. So does someone have a motion?
Move to endorse both projects.
Okay.
I'll second that.
All right.
Could I add a
Rick,
friendly
and thank you.
amendment that we may want to specify on a letter?
Yeah.
If we're putting that or not.
Perfectly
Yes.
acceptable.
Alan, I saw your hand went up too. Sorry.
I had exactly the same idea. So see, I knew you were ahead of me.
Well, I will definitely add to that. I'm curious about the letter. Is the letter to go to City Council?
It goes to SCATs.
It would go to SCATs. It would be part of our application package.
Okay, and by what date?
I believe the deadline is it's near the end of February. I call it about February 22nd, I think.
Okay.
Looks like February 24th in the
24th. Okay.
packet. So probably a few days before that, give them time to put it in the packet.
Okay. All right. Dylan, would you like to kind of restate the motion?
Well, I might ask who would like to write the letter. Mickey, I don't know if you want to do that or if someone else, if you want help with that. As Keith mentioned, we do have the previous letter that I think it was Keith Allen and I wrote that. And we had a fair amount of info that we put in that. So I think changing the name on the top can really get you where you need to go. But that does not include the Orchard Heights one. So I don't know if we need a separate letter for that or if we wanted to just write the letter. Alan,
I would write 2 letters, one for each application.
Yeah.
Agreed.
That's okay.
So it sounds like we have one letter covered, that we just changed the heading and basically changed the date, make sure it looks good. But then we need an Orchard Heights letter. Is that right?
I would think so.
Your action sheet will probably just have what the request is from the staff report. So it'd have both, but you could certainly include that action sheet on each application that shows both. Unless you need a separate action sheet for each one, Anthony, from the board.
No, we don't.
It's not going to council then, or at some point it'll go to council where you'll need the action sheet?
Yeah, if it's part of our final application package, we will be going to council, letting them know that we're applying for a project.
Okay. Then however they work the motion, I'll just adjust the action sheet accordingly, or action sheets.
Okay,
Thank you.
thanks.
Okay.
So Mickey, you
now-
asked me to, sorry.
Oh, yeah, yes. Please go ahead, Dylan, because I'm a little confused because I'm thinking, okay, this goes to council, I think, on February 14th.
Yes.
But we're writing the letter to SCAT.
To SCATs.
Or the 2 letters. So I'm not really too sure how to best approach this.
If I may suggest, one thing we had done that I had done over the last year was that we voted to give permission for you as the chair in this case to write the letter, or if you want to work with somebody and then you can sign off on it. And that way you can sign your name and submit it to the council meeting without us having to re-vote to approve the letter. So if we basically assume that the letter is going to encompass what we discussed here of just being generally supportive of the project, then you and someone else or yourself could take that on and be in charge of submitting that. But I don't want to put too much on your plate. I'm just throwing, otherwise we would want to maybe revisit it next month with the letter text and vote on it at our next meeting and then forward it as part of the application, because the letter probably does not need to go to council if they're just approving of the application.
I'm not sure what everyone would like to do because our next meeting is February 10th. So that would give us a chance to approve the letter at the next meeting, or at least I'm really open to whatever the board would like to do. Alan?
I would suggest that we task to draft the letter and we could present it to our board and have it ready to vote on our next meeting. And that way we wouldn't have any, except for some minor editing, perhaps it'd be ready to go.
If I may just note one thing to the board, agendas and attachments to the agendas for the city council usually go through 2 weeks before. Some things could be added, but I would recommend that if to the extent that the letter could be done, if it is the intent of this board to have it ready and be part of the documents going to council, the letter should be finalized 2 weeks before that council date. If the board is just not worried about it being included in the packet going to council and leaving with Public Works saying that SPRAB is voted to support this and is in the process of authoring a letter, then that time frame would not be as important. Council things kind of work about 2 weeks. The week of the meeting before is the week that the council agenda items are being approved and put together for the next meeting. So it's always 2 weeks ahead of time.
Okay, well, thank you for that, Mark. I really appreciate it. So would it be appropriate maybe for us tonight to vote on the 2 of them, since the way they are an action item, both projects, just because that's what will actually go to council, is the fact that we approved or are endorsing these 2 grant applications. And then we do the letters kind of secondarily. Would that work?
I would recommend asking Anthony what would be most helpful to him, and let the board consider it that way.
Okay.
From our perspective, the letter is most helpful. We would want it by the time we submit to SCATs. Yeah, that would be from our perspective, that's the key time. We would want it as part of that application package.
Vicky, may I try and clarify one thing? I think there may be, if I'm understanding this correctly, the letter is not being directed at council and Mark. If I'm understanding what you're saying, that would be if the letter was actually directed at council. But I think in this case, if the letter is directed at SCATs, then it shouldn't be a problem for us just to submit the letter for the 23rd deadline, as long as council gets the vote sheet for us that we did in fact approve the project. Does that seem right?
My understanding is that on February 14th, Anthony, Public Works is going to council for authorization to apply for the grant
Correct.
with SCATs.
That's
Yeah.
correct.
And that you are not requesting that the letter be done by that point as what you're presenting to council. You just
Yes.
need the letter, the actual letter of support by the time you submit that grant application to SCATs, assuming that on the 14th, the council authorizes you to do so.
Correct.
Okay. Does that give the board the clarification that it was looking for?
I
would
believe- go ahead.
recommend that a motion come forth that it could be a joint motion for both projects as to whether or not the board votes. And was there already a vote on?
We haven't voted on the vote on the motion to approve both projects. I
Okay.
recommend the approval of both projects.
So I would recommend that the motion, that motion could stay as it is, and that as a board you discuss who would draft the letter of support to be voted on at the next meeting. You don't need to do a separate motion to draft a letter, excuse me, just that it be understood that a particular member of the board is going to draft a letter to bring forth the next meeting.
That would be an understanding completely compatible with my initial motion that the board approves it, then our leader, with advice from anybody, and particularly Dylan, I think, could write that letter in response to the motion. Yeah.
Second.
Okay.
Hey, that's not another motion. It's just clarifying what Mark said, I think.
Absolutely. No, and I think what I was mostly trying to do was just get clarification on who was going to write the letter as we're approving it. But that, so I think I fully agree with you.
Procedurally, Chair, my recommendation would be that you ask for any further discussion and call the matter for a vote if there's none. I think that's where you're at in the process.
Okay, because currently the current motion then is as is stated on the action sheet, so that we are going to decide whether or not to endorse the 2 grant applications, right? Isn't that where we are?
Yes.
Okay. So is there any further discussion? I do not see any. So let's go ahead and vote on the motion. So I will call roll. Dylan, first of all.
Aye.
Okay. Alan Alexander.
Aye.
Dave.
Aye.
Rick Hartwig.
Aye.
Alan Holland.
Aye.
Joan Lloyd.
Aye.
Keith Norris.
Aye.
Woody Dukes.
Aye.
And I vote aye as well. So the motion passes. Thank you all. Now we need to, yay, yay. I know they're great projects. Wow. So now for the letter. I've been really impressed this evening with the background of information from so many of you on the board with SCATs and with the whole process. You're much better qualified for writing the letters or modifying the letters than I am. So do I have some volunteers? Alexander?
I would be happy to work with somebody, particularly one of the West Salem representatives who has more in-depth knowledge on working on that project. But I have a fair amount of experience with SCATs on a variety of projects.
Okay, well, I would be willing to work with you on the Orchard Heights
Okay.
letter because I'm fairly familiar with it.
Mickey, I can help with the Pringle Creek connection and just kind of revamp our letter that we submitted a year ago that I helped draft.
Okay, okay,
I'm
that would
happy
be
to help
great.
you with that, Keith, too, if you need a second set of eyes.
Perfect.
Okay. I'm just scribbling down some notes here. Okay, is there anything else we need to do then on the letter? I don't think we need to take another vote. We've already decided and discussed that we are going to draft a couple of letters to go along with the grant applications. And let me clarify, are we going to see the letters at our February 10th meeting then? Okay, I just wanted to make sure we all had the same understanding that we will be seeing the final letters or the draft letters at our February 10th meeting. Okay, all right. Well, thank you all for the in-depth discussion and everything. I'm really excited about these projects.
Excuse me, Mickey.
Uh-huh.
I'm sorry. Just for our new board members, when we make a motion, especially if it's going to go to council, I write up what we call an action sheet, and it just states on there the board members that were in attendance and what the item is and how it was voted upon, and who voted yay and nay. And depending on what the topic is and the type of discussion, oftentimes we'll include some discussion, especially if it's kind of a contentious issue. And just to let you know, and then that is attached to the staff report that goes to council about that particular issue.
Well, thank you, Tony, for providing that information. It really, really helps to understand the whole process better.
You're welcome.
Thanks. Oh, before I forget, since we were talking about Orchard Heights, well, I'll bring it up when we do our comments. Sorry at this later on. Let's move on to our next agenda item, which is the tree public survey results. Let's see, Deborah, would you like to take the lead here?
Sure, thank you. Let me take a moment to share my screen real quickly. Can everyone see my screen okay?
Yes.
Okay.
I
My name is Deborah, and I'm in the Public Works Department, and I'm the Educational Outreach Supervisor. And I'm here tonight to talk to you about a tree survey that we conducted with the community members as part of our efforts for the Community Forestry Program. So this presentation is going to be a short presentation. I'm just going to give you a little bit of background about why we're doing it, the methodology of the survey, and the results and our next steps that we have for consideration. So as many of you know, the city has a goal to achieve a 28% canopy by the year 2020. In all our efforts, we've been working with Friends of Trees. We've been doing a lot of tree plantings along streets, et cetera, and along streams as well. And if we plant our public lands, we'll still need the help of private residents to plant trees. And so what this survey did is it went out into community members And it was asking them about barriers to tree planting on their property, as well as what incentives might encourage them to plant trees. So it was a random sample that we did with a consultant called Environmental Issues. And we actually wanted to focus on the low tree canopy areas. So we took our GIS, we did a little GIS exercise and found the areas that were under 28% canopy. And we also looked at those areas that had what we considered plantable space of over 700 square feet, because we thought that would be enough for a mature tree to grow. And we were hoping to get our survey out to people who actually own their properties, since they can make the decisions about planting a tree in their yard. It was actually a direct mailing, since we knew the addresses of these folks, and we opened the survey to folks from October 1st to October 25th. This was both, we mailed a postcard and with Spanish on the postcard, and it had a QR code as well as a link, and that invited folks to take a survey. And because of our lowish amounts, we were hoping to get 600 people, but by October 11th, we were thinking that we might not hit our target. And so we opened up the survey to the broader community. And we did that through our various city channels, such as our city Facebook page and the city newsletter. So our results, we actually ended up getting 677 people. About 34% of those did come from the low canopy areas. Another 36.8% came from online responses or our digital media. And then we had this other one of about 29%, which are additional responses. Unfortunately, sometimes what happens is pop-up blockers and stuff can strip off the information about where the person is directed from to the survey. And so those are considered, we don't know if they're actually from the postcard mailing or from additional outreach efforts that we did. We have our results in two different groups. You'll see the green here is the low canopy responses, and then the blue is just the general public. And so what we found here is that not too many people are familiar with our city tree programs as well as our tree planting goal. And so what this means is we have a lot of opportunity and for outreach and or information and education. And we have the opportunity to develop the messaging that we want to give out to the public. And so what we need to do is seek new ways as well to communicate with those folks, people who we want to try and have plant trees, which is mostly everyone. And while we maintain our current method of communications as well. So this is very encouraging results on this slide here. We asked people what they thought the importance of trees in their community is. And we had over 80%, both in low canopy areas and the general public as well, who thought trees were important in their neighborhood. And then we asked about the number of trees in their neighborhood, if they thought that they had too many, the right amount, or if they would like more. And the nice thing here is that we saw that people would like more. So that means that we'll have support for the continued tree planting events that we do in our parks and along streets and such. And this slide actually shows the table from the last slide. And so it's asking about, or it's showing the response that we got for asking the question about trees in the neighborhood versus trees on my property. So you can see that it falls just a little bit. So would you like more trees in your neighborhood? All of them were over 60%. But then when we asked about on your specific property, that did fall down to 56 to 40 to 46% based on who was responding. So that, I mean, the good news still is that people are definitely interested in planting, and we just need to make sure that when we do our outreach efforts that we are communicating with the correct people and we're connecting with the correct people. We did ask questions about incentives and barriers to tree planting. And I kind of have this little circle over here in the orange, and we're able to address through future efforts, we'll actually be able to address a lot of the high response incentives. So mostly people are looking for information on where to plant and how to take care of the trees. They also were interested in free or low cost trees and interested in someone to help plant the trees. So again, this provides a lot of opportunity for education and a lot of messaging for the right plant, right place, and to also provide information about how to properly care for trees. The other item that we can address with this is to develop a program for providing trees, and we'll look at what I call a cost share program. And then we may want to consider having a sliding scale for different income levels. And then finally, with this third one, or the fourth one, excuse me, someone to help plant, we can take a look at what we're already doing with our Friends of Trees and the contract that we have with them, and see if we can utilize those efforts to help people with the plantings on their yards and in their neighborhood. And then this slide here shows the barriers to plantings. And I have little trees down here because I realize that they also make kind of good arrows. And so the tree where you see the trees, those are ones that we can really actually address pretty well. Now, I just want to remind everybody, we did this survey back in October, and I'm sure I do not have to remind everybody that we had a fierce ice storm in February of last year that caused significant damage. And so I think that's why we see this high level. We actually were going to do this survey. It was planned for spring of last year, but we decided since the ice storm was too fresh in people's mind, we wanted to hold it off a little. But people are concerned about the damage from trees. But again, knowing the right plant in the right place can help with our educational efforts. Also, they want to know the information, where to plant and what type of tree again. So that can go with the damage of trees. That goes hand in hand there, as well as the info for care. So you can see that there's a lot of education that we can bring to the community. And then this other arrow here with against city codes or homeowners associations. So that's something that we'll want to look into in the future too, to see what homeowners association rules kind of prohibit tree planting, and then again look at our city codes to see really if there are any barriers, if there are actual barriers, or if they're just perceived. So then our next steps for this, we kind of divide things up into education and action here. So I've talked a lot about an educational program. Again, we've talked a lot about the right plant, right place, caring for trees. We'll definitely want to seek new ways to communicate with the public, to reach out to the public, find those people who really want to plant trees in their yards. And we want to make sure that when we do develop new information, because we have all different cultures in the city, so we want to make sure that the information that is being created is culturally competent. And then in addition to our education, we have our action that we want to do. And so right now we actually have the pilot program already going in the Northeast neighborhood. And so they're going around, staff is going around working with Friends of Trees to reach out to homeowners on this pilot project to see about planting trees in people's yards. In addition, we actually, part of the survey that we had, they gave us their intersection for their cross street, and they also gave us their address. So what we can do is take that information and have our tech folks help us create a lovely GIS map and see if there are little hot spots where people might be interested in planting trees. And then the other item, one of the barriers too, was that people did want help with maintenance. So creating a volunteer program where people might be able to join together and help neighbors with the maintenance of raking up leaves or helping to trim or anything. So these are the next steps that we are considering. And I'll go ahead and open it to any questions. If there are any.
I have a question.
Yeah.
I think this is wonderful. It's a great project, great ideas. Relevant to considering a pilot neighborhood volunteer program, I might suggest the consideration of a volunteer program to encourage a day of service from our school children. I used to do that with our kids in middle school, and we'd take a day and the kids would bring a rake to school, or parents would bring rake to school, and we'd have a classroom of kids with a teacher out there walking a block or two from their schools and raking up for an afternoon, a couple hours in the afternoon. It's amazing how much work can get done in an hour or two with a bunch of kids excited about raking leaves. And it's just a part of what might be helpful in a neighborhood program to help keep care of that stuff. I don't know who the contact would be, but that's an idea I think we could pursue a little bit.
Yeah, that's a great idea, because they also have service learning hours too, and that could really tie in well with that. So thank you for the suggestion.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a great idea. And Deborah, thanks so much for that presentation. It was really very, very helpful as a follow-up. Many of us on the board were on the tree subcommittee years ago, and we were talking about ways that we could address areas of low tree canopy, what some of the barriers were, and we had started talking about a survey, and it's wonderful just to see it coming together and the results from the survey, and the need for education and just the interest in folks to plant trees and get involved and want more trees in their neighborhood, especially in the areas of low tree canopy.
Yeah.
So thank you very much. So comments, let's see. I think Dylan I think your hand was up first, wasn't it?
I'm not sure, but okay. Keith, all right, I saw you nod. Thank you, Deborah. As Mickey mentioned, I remember the tree subcommittee, and I'm really excited to see this getting underway. It's been a while that we've talked about these, so this is great. I have just a couple quick points. First is I saw that the Tree City USA is giving out boost grants right now. I'm sure you may or may not be aware of this already, but there's these $500 grants applying by the end of the month to help with Tree City USA programs. And I'm wondering if there's something, I know that's really quick, but just thinking, especially with what Al was just suggesting there of school programs or something, if there's some way to mobilize people. It seems like the ice storm is kind of a good impetus for us in terms of, I know tree giveaways are usually a bad idea, but I'm almost thinking it could be tree replacements could be better for folks that had to cut down their trees and get them removed because of the ice storm. I wonder if you could get some takers of people that had already had a tree, were already committed to taking care of it, but obviously lost it from the storm. So wanted to plant that seed, pun intended, to think about for the next couple of weeks. The other two things were, one is suggesting a list of trees I think would be really helpful for different parts of the city. So I live over here in West Salem, where there used to be orchards. There's a lot of fruit trees. We have the very heavy clay soil, and where I am, and it's a very different type of tree planting than some parts of Salem. And so I know Oregon Live actually from the Oregonian has had some different articles from their gardeners, but I think we could do some very Salem specific things that would be really useful for us. So that would be something I would encourage the city to look at and maybe engage Salem Statesman Journal to try and build some press around that. And then finally, during the Salem Climate Action Plan, something that came up in one of my subgroups was we talked about the idea of a call before you cut line with the city. And so as some of you may know, if you've done work on your properties, there's a call before you dig in Oregon, where you have to call it to make sure the utility lines come out. And so we talked about if you could do a call before your cut, where folks could call the city arborist or someone in the city's public works to basically get feedback of, do I actually need to cut down this tree? A lot of times I think people cut down the tree if there's damage and they just take it out. And I know that Mylan might be cringing right now about me saying, let's have more people call. I know that you're about to talk about this long list of public works requests, but wanted to plant this idea now, and we can talk about it again later. But I know that it's in the final, it's on one of the long lists of climate action plan ideas. And I think in terms of public education, setting up some kind of hotline like that could be really good for us to look into.
Yeah, I appreciate those comments too. And I will say that all the efforts that we will be doing, Mylan and Patricia both will be involved in the planning of those as well. So I think that's a great idea. And we have, of course, our dispatch number, but not everybody knows about that. So that's a really good slogan actually too. So yeah, and anytime, if anyone thinks of anything after this meeting as well, please feel free to email any one of us, Patricia, Tony, Mylan, myself. We're happy to always take suggestions and ideas from everybody. And I appreciate you also saying Salem specific. And I 100% agree that we do need to have something that is for our community and for our area and requirements. So thank you.
Yeah, that's great. Keith, did you have a question?
Yeah, mine was just more specific to the survey itself. I was just curious, was the charts there, was that a complete list of like the incentives that were listed on the survey, or were there other incentives that got less results, was there a fill-in option? I guess just I felt like it was a fairly limited list, I guess. So I wasn't sure if there was more options available.
That was mostly it, but then there was also a fill-in option.
Okay.
And believe it or not, really it was the information that was the highest of the items. And so we also had a few more questions that I didn't go over as well. But for example, with when we talked about what is the cost share going to be, and I was kind of surprised that we had 3 different groups, and I think it was like $0 to $10, $10 to $20, or over $20. And the majority of the people said that they were willing to pay over $20 for a tree. So I thought that was also pretty good too. But then that's why we're kind of suggesting maybe a sliding scale for people that just might, just different economics of folks.
Right. Okay, thanks.
Yeah, thank you, Deborah. Any other comments from the board members? I don't see any other hands. I didn't see it in my packet, Deborah, but could I, I guess what I would like, could we get a copy of the presentation, in a PDF?
Oh, yeah.
Because it was great. So much information, and I was trying to just absorb all of it, and I'd love to have it in a PDF to refer to.
Yeah, sorry, I kind of went over it quickly. But yeah,
no, you did a great job. You did it. No, it was great, but just lots of information, and I'd just like to be able to tie it back into some of the previous stuff we did on the tree subcommittee too. Okay.
Yeah, well, I will go ahead and make that a PDF and send it on over.
Thank you.
I'm happy to forward it to everyone.
Okay.
Oh, thanks, Tony.
Well, I don't see any other questions. So let's move on to our next agenda item, which is board member updates. Do any board members have updates they'd like to share?
I do not have any updates from the Library Strategic Planning Committee. I haven't heard anything in a while, so just actually sent a message here to see what the status of that is. It had some, the pandemic had slowed down some of that process a little bit when they thought they were going to be reopening and then did not. So hopefully by our February meeting, I'll have a more of an update on what the status of that is. As
okay.
For the new folks, as SPRAB's representative to the Strategic Planning Committee for the city's library.
Okay, thank you, Keith. Appreciate that.
Mickey, just as a, sorry.
Go ahead.
I was just going to share a reminder when Keith is talking about representative. I know right now you are the representative for the Bailey Ridge Master Plan. And last month we talked about postponing getting you a backup until this month, until we had our new members on board. So I see that that's in Patricia's report, but either now or during these reports, we might want to make sure that we designate someone as the alternate for you.
Okay, let's do it when we get down to Patricia's report, so we can just kind of tie it in. Thank you for the reminder. I appreciate it. Yeah, I don't have any updates from anything other than I just wanted to say, to tie into Deborah's presentation, I did volunteer and help plant trees at Highland Park and along, I think it was Columbia, on Saturday with Friends of Trees. We planted 46 trees. I think that's what it was, 21 and 25. And it was great. I didn't realize how many different varieties we plant and how I've learned a lot. I've helped in some previous projects, but it was more brush and other plantings. But boy, going out and planting trees, you learn a lot. And so I just wanted to share that with everyone. Another volunteer opportunity I just wanted to mention is on Saturday morning from 9 to 11 for all of us that we were talking about Orchard Heights. We're going to be putting chips on trails in Orchard Heights because they're really muddy. So I just wanted to mention that. Well, let's move on to our information report. So first of all, the Mission Street Parks Conservancy minutes. And Christine, do you have anything you'd like to share with? Thank you for the minutes. I really appreciate it. They're always so detailed. But anything you'd like to share with the group?
Well, thank you, Madam Chairman. First, I'd like to say congratulations to the new officers and their new positions. So the more things change, the more they kind of stay the same, I guess. I just have a couple of things I'd like to mention about our 2021 year. First of all, despite the pandemic and some very odd weather and whatnot, we clocked well over 3,000 volunteer hours in the parks. And I don't have all the numbers yet because some people put in hours in December that are still trickling in, but it's well over 3,000 hours. Also, I think you probably remember, you may remember that we have a new volunteer supervisor in the park. And so this was the end of the first gardening season with our new volunteer supervisor. And we did a little debrief of lessons learned and whatnot. Things seem to have gone really well under the new system. And we made a few changes about the way volunteers were used and how we were able to cluster work to make it more efficient. So that worked out pretty well. And lastly, as you know, or may remember, our 2022 work plan contained a commitment to select a new project for the park, and we have selected a new project to the park, and we've sent the city of Salem our preliminary drawings and a very brief narrative overview. And the next step will be hopefully getting together with folks from the city so that we can figure out what's going to be the formal process for moving projects ahead under the cultural landscape management plan. So that's where we are. We're looking forward to a happy, busy, successful, and not quite so hot 2022 gardening season. That's my report.
Thank you, Christine. Do any board members have questions for Christine?
Is it possible to get the name of that new volunteer supervisor?
It certainly is possible. His name is Michael Slater, and you have some public testimony from him today.
Okay, yeah, I didn't know that was who it was. Okay, great, thank you.
Well, thank you, Christine. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye. Okay, next on, okay, with all our information reports, they're wonderful. They're well written and full of just lots of information. So I'm going to, in the interest of saving some time, I'm just going to kind of hurry through these and find out if, ask if any board members have any specific questions, plus give the individuals who submitted the reports a chance maybe to just introduce themselves to the new board members. I think that would be really, really helpful as well. So next on the list is the urban forestry update with Mylan Davis. Mylan, would you please introduce yourself?
Sure, thanks, Mickey. Mylan Davis, the city's public works urban forester. Mostly dealing with operations, but we also handle any permitting issues with Public Works for tree plantings, as well as assist the city's planning department in development issues with any tree related questions. Yeah, 2 years here I've been, I guess now, so sort of settling in finally after some crazy ice storms and weather. Finally looking forward to getting back to planting some trees. We started planting trees about 2 weeks ago again, so it's always a fun time for us after all the removing of trees and pruning and all the hard work we've done, actually getting to put some new trees back in the ground. So I think today we did over 25 trees out at Minto Brown, and obviously working with Friends of Trees, doing the weekend events, and then doing some street tree plantings, and then we'll probably continue planting trees with our staff all the way through, till leaf break in March or so, mid-April. So hope to get at least 300 trees in the ground between now and then, but we'll see what happens weather-wise. But I don't have anything to add otherwise to my report.
Okay, thank you. No, and the report was wonderful. I have been so impressed over the last couple of years with the GIS and the things that you've implemented to track things. I mean, you've shown, you have all these wonderful diagrams in our board packet, and you've shown us, I'll come in and presented it, and it's just been really, really helpful and a great addition to the whole program. So thank you.
Yeah, thanks. We had lots of help from the Public Works GIS analyst, who I mentioned for the first time in the report this time, but he's been very helpful working with us almost daily to improve our sort of workflow and sort of trying to get into the 21st century and how we manage our tree canopy.
Great.
Thanks.
Well, thank you. Any questions from the board before we move on? Okay, I'm not seeing anything. Next is Parks and Natural Resources Planning Update. And Patricia?
Good evening, everybody. For the new people, hi, Joan. I'm Patricia Farrell. I'm Parks and Natural Resources Planning Manager. And so my group includes Tony Whitler here tonight, and also Rob Romanek, who's a parks planner, and Jennifer Mongolo, who's our natural resource specialist, and myself. And then we're in the Public Works Department. We work on various projects related to both parks and natural resources. So for instance, we're right now drafting the annual tree report, working closely with Mylan on that for 2021, which is, as you already heard, a lot to do with the ice storm and the cleanup after that. But there'll be some documents attached to that report that will also help enlighten about some of the work that Mylan's been doing and kind of the analysis on the canopy loss associated with that event. And then we also do a lot of park master planning. And right now we're working on Bailey Ridge, which was mentioned, and Tony's the project manager for that. And so because Paul Rice was, I think, our alternate member, we usually have 2 people assigned from the board to kind of keep up to date on what's happening with the master plan and to provide backup reports to members and just to kind of stay involved. So I think we're looking for an alternate member tonight, or I don't know how you want to do it, Mickey, if you want it tonight or the next meeting.
We have our first public planning meeting on January 26th. And I'm not sure what your schedule is, but as an alternate, they can certainly attend anytime. But if you're not able to come to that first one, then that person would be able to attend.
Okay, well, I do think we need to have a couple people, and I am planning on attending, but we do need to have an alternate. So are there any volunteers from board members to be another liaison for the Bailey Ridge Master Park Plan process?
Minimal work.
What's that?
I said it's minimal work, right? It's kind of show up to the meetings and listen and just kind of, you know, keep involved, but there's no other real work involved.
Alan, I saw your hand, but you're on mute. You're still on mute.
There we go. Listen,
Okay.
with the assurance that it involves minimum work, then I'll volunteer. That's one of my criteria.
Okay. Thank you very much, Alan. Yes, it doesn't involve a lot of work. You get to go back when we used to do them in person. You go and you just chat with folks and see the presentation. But now that it'll be virtual, it'll be like other presentations that we've seen at SPRAB meetings, pretty much.
I certainly hope that the day's coming when we can see each other face to face again.
Yes. Well, thank you so very much.
Mickey, if I might, there will be an email going out in this next week with all of the information, the Zoom link. So you will have that. And I may actually just send it to you separately too, as well, just to be sure you have it.
Okay. That's great. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Ellen.
Yeah. Are there any questions on the Parks and Natural Resources Planning update from board members? Any questions for Patricia?
Yeah, Mickey, I had just a quick question. I saw there was a couple of land donations. The Fairview land, 1.7 acres. Looks like that's going into Fairview Park. Is the woods at Fairview Woods? Is that also is that in the same location? I wasn't sure where that was, where either of them were actually located, but.
Yeah, the one, the smaller one has been, it's right at the kind of the corner of the existing Fairview Park. So it'll just be added into the existing park. The other piece, I think last month there was a map that was provided that shows all the different pieces. It's kind of across the street from the Meyer Farm parcel, if you're familiar with that one. So it's kind of the south west corner of Fairview, of sustainable Fairview, at that corner of that area. So I don't know if that helps. I don't have a map handy, but
I guess part of my question was just, is that going to get added into another park, or is that going to create its own separate park at 14 acres natural area? Is it administratively, where's that going to fit in, I guess, is where I'm headed with the questioning.
Yeah, it's separated by enough houses and streets that it's its own piece.
Okay.
And it's going to be a natural area. So it may have a trail through it, but that's about it.
Pretty minimal development. Okay, excellent.
Has a lot of very nice trees on it.
Cool.
Yay. And thank you for asking that, Keith. That was the only question I had on the report.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, the next report is the park operations update, and Jennifer Keller, who provides the update, is not here this evening. But I didn't know, do any board members have any questions from Jennifer's report? Okay, I don't see any questions. I noticed that the cleanups are going to the unsheltered population cleanup update, which is something that we get in our packets every month, is just what's going on at the various areas. I did notice that everything's kind of on hold until after the point in time count, which makes sense, so that the individuals who are camping there. In the past or earlier, SPRAB voted to, we don't sanction the camping in the park, but it is still going on to some extent, obviously. And I know that's a concern for all of us. I did actually walk through Wallace Marine Park, through the north end of the park on Sunday, just kind of to see. I think there are about 100 individuals camping there. But one of the things that concerned me was where they were camping now is up high enough that they were out of the floodwaters, but it was very apparent that they had been in the lower areas before, and there's a lot to be cleaned up out there that was just kind of in the puddles and water along the Willamette. So yeah, it was kind of sad to see that, but anyway.
Yeah, Mickey, that was, I was going to make similar comments about that. You know, I appreciate the updates on the cleanup efforts, but I know they were still camping at Wallace. There was a death at Wallace Marine before also, and so it's still a and the other one I wanted to flag was Marion downtown as a pretty overrun, and I wasn't sure if the city was. I don't know what to do, and I think to your point of kind of having the count coming up, it makes sense perhaps to not disrupt the current status of things. But I guess what I fear is that now that the actually emergency order sanctioned camping that the city had is over, I'm a little concerned that the arguments over it and the attention on it's going to go away, and camping will just be kind of allowed to passively continue in a dispersed sense. And so I don't want us to forget that it is an issue for which we should maintain some level of attention on, even outside of that emergency order discussion that we had with the city.
I agree. The other thing that I wanted to mention from Jennifer's report were the SPIF, the Salem Park Improvement Fund grants that neighborhood associations apply for. And I just wanted to point out that there have been a bunch of other things going, so there's been a little bit of a delay in the process. We usually get the determinations in January, but it will be in February is what it's looking like. So I just wanted to make sure folks were aware of that update. And there were, I believe, 7 neighborhood associations applied for SPIF grants.
Mickey, I have a quick question on Keith's point. I believe that we had asked Gretchen Bennett to give us an update every quarter. Is that right? And I'm trying to remember when we last heard from her. It was sometime in the fall, but.
Right, that's a really good point. I don't remember for sure when it was, but we did ask for quarterly updates. So perhaps that's something we could have at our next meeting.
Mm-hmm.
I can check in with Gretchen and her schedule and see what we can get on the agenda.
That would be great. Thank you, Tony.
Thank you both.
All right, the next report, the recreation services update. Is Becky still here? I know it's late. Everyone's probably fallen asleep.
No, I'm still here.
Oh boy. Would you please introduce yourself briefly? And yeah.
Okay, you bet. My name is Becky George. I'm the recreation supervisor, and I've been with the city of Salem for almost coming up on 30 years now. So I supervise 3 full-time staff, 2 of which operate the Wallace Marine Softball Complex, where we play softball leagues during the weeknights, and then we have tournaments on weekends, and we also do kickball. And that generally, that complex is operated April through October. And then in the so-called off season, the staff go out and do bidding for national softball tournaments, and we've been pretty successful at that. So the other staff person that I oversee, Melinda Moon, she runs the youth recreation programs and also schedules city facilities for sports activities. And then I supervise those staff, and in addition to that, schedule any events that happen on city property, which includes streets. But for this purposes of SPRAB, a lot of them take place in our park system. So my report's the one page there. So it kind of gives you an overview of what's going on and what, again, we'd call the quote unquote off season, although it's still pretty busy. But we are getting ready for spring and looking forward to having a few more events this year, hopefully, than we've had the last 2 years. A lot of those big events such as World Beat Festival and Movies in the Park and Fish and El Rey concerts, those have been postponed for 2 years now. So we're looking forward to getting those back this year. And then I have my first Ironman meeting coming up next week. So they'll be back for their second year. I believe the date is July 10th. So that's last year was the first year we've ever hosted an Ironman here in Oregon and in Salem. So it was very successful, and looking forward to doing that again in 2022 and hopefully in 2023 as well. And then the other thing, and I put that in my report, was the new Jerry Frank Salem Rotary Amphitheater. Obviously, that project's been completed, and the city took it back. The city did work, and then Salem Rotary finished their work of the stage area, and the city ended up getting that back over from Salem Rotary in October, middle to late October. So we haven't had the opportunity to have a lot of events in that new facility, but we're looking forward to doing that. And in the report, there's a bullet statement about the new limited duration program manager that the city's hiring to help promote and market that facility, and try to get in some larger events and just give us some help in getting it scheduled and marketing it to the larger production companies up and down the West Coast. So I don't know if there's any questions. I'd be happy to answer.
Well, thank you, Becky. I don't see any questions. Anybody have any questions? I don't see any. So
Okay,
thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, the last item under our reports is the park damage report. This is something that's included in each of our packets, and it just details the damage that's occurred in City of Salem parks and open spaces. I was a bit concerned to see that the total 5,565 was from 3 incidents, and then the total from November last year was 1,329 from 5 incidents. So that's a bit alarming, just the increase. That's just something that stood out to me with that. Well, I don't see any other hands. Any new business? What's next on our agenda? Any particular items anyone would like to?
I just had a question, and probably a question for Tony. I'm just curious, we usually do our annual planning in February, I think, with the kind of work plan for the year in terms of master plans and everything like that. Is that still something we're going to be doing next month?
Yes, I was actually going to add that when you were done with your new business, and just let everyone know that I will be sending out the work plan for you to review and for our new board members to take a look at. And we will, really just think about, take a look at the plan and the items that are on it. And if you think of something that should be on it, such as a certain report that you'd like to see quarterly or annually, we'll take a look at those ideas, and then we'll also update our committees as well at that time. And also, just to let you know, and Mickey and Dylan, I did reach out to Joan and to Al, and they will be putting together an orientation for them as well. And Mickey, you'll be asked to attend that, and we'll just sort of inform them on the purview of the board and take questions and all those good things that we do. at orientation.
Thank you for bringing that up, Dylan. The reminder that we do need to go through that process. And it's always really interesting. And thank you for the explanation, Tony. I really appreciate that. Well, if we don't have any other business or anything, I just wanted to say I thank you all for your time, and thanks to our two new members. We've just got a great group. I'm just really, really impressed. Our next meeting will be February 10th at 5:30, our usual time. And if there isn't anything, oh, go ahead, Tony. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
And if you would, just take a look at the website for the community bond projects and be thinking about what you'd like to see and what could possibly go in the bond for our February discussion.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for the suggestion. I appreciate it. Anybody else? Any last comments before we adjourn the meeting?
Congratulations, Mickey, on becoming chair, and wonderful job with your first meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry it ran over a little bit. Thanks for all of your patience. I appreciate it. Well, thank you. The meeting is adjourned then. I'll see you guys all in February.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thank you. Bye-bye.